Good morning, dear students. We have completed with the immunity, allergies, vaccination, autoimmune diseases. Today we will study the immune system in our body. What are the organs involved, how they function, little bit, not in lot of details, but then yes, what are the organs involved in the immune system. The human immune system consists of lymphoid organs, tissues, cells and some antibodies. It is a unique as in the sense that it recognizes foreign antigens, responds them, remembers them. The immune system also plays an important role in allergies, autoimmune diseases and organ transplantation. Now, to discuss the lymphoid organs, we have the primary organs and the secondary organ. The thymus and the bone marrow form the primary lymphoid organs, and whereas the lymphocyte differentiate into antigen sensitive lymphocytes, whereas the secondary lymphoid organ consists of adenoids, tonsils, lymph nodes, spleen, Peyer's patches, appendix. So these are your secondary lymph organ. The function of the primary lymph organ is to generate the immature lymphocyte so that they can identify the antigen and then prepare the antibodies. The primary lymphoid organ, bone marrow, is the main lymphoid organ where all blood cells, including the lymphocytes, are produced. The thymus is a lobed organ near the heart beneath the breastbone. If you see in this diagram, the thymus is a lobed structure just beneath the breastbone, and it reduces to a very small size by the time of puberty. At the time of birth, it is pretty large. By the time of puberty, its size reduces. Both bone marrow and thymus provide environment for development and maturation of the T lymphocytes. Let me remind you, the T lymphocytes are the cells which remember the pathogens and then trigger the B lymphocytes when there is an invasion of the pathogen. So the T lymphocytes, they develop in the in the thymus as well as in the bone marrow. They help in remembering the pathogens. The secondary lymphoid organ provides the site for interaction of lymphocytes with the antigen, which then proliferate to become effector cells. The location of various lymphoid organs can be seen in the diagram. Suppose an antigen has entered the body. These antigen reach the secondary lymphoid organs where they interact with the lymphocyte and antibodies are created by the lymphocytes. That means the antigen is presented to the lymphocytes to create antibodies. I repeat myself. Antigens are taken to the secondary lymphoid organ with the help of various blood cells where they are presented or they are shown to the lymphocytes, that's the T lymphocytes, so that they can prepare antibodies against these antigens. Once antigens are prepared, these T cells trigger the B cells to produce the antibodies, and these antibodies bind with the antigen and kills the antigen. The spleen is a large bean-shaped organ. It is the largest organ Lymphatic. It is present in the upper left quadrant of the abdominal cavity. It mainly contains lymphocytes and phagocytes. It acts as a filter of blood by trapping blood-borne microorganisms. Spleen is also has a large reservoir of erythrocytes. Erythrocytes are the RBCs. So these are the sites where the RBCs are produced as well as removed. They are a reservoir of blood in times of shock and hemorrhage. Lymph nodes are small solid structures located at different points along with the lymphatic system. Lymph nodes serve to trap the microorganisms or the antigens which happen to get into the lymph or tissue fluid. So they are actually the cells or the fluid which traps the antigen, and they carry it to these nodes where they are made to interact with the B and T cells or the lymphocytes. There is lymphoid tissue also located within the lining of the major tracts: the respiratory tract, the digestive tract, the urinogenital tract, and these are called the mucosa associated lymphoid tissues. In short, MALT. It constitutes about 50% of the lymphoid tissues in human body. The one associated with the gut is known as gut associated lymphoid tissue or GALT. So we can say that these are the first line of defense, from where the antigens are trapped, taken to the lymph nodes where they are made to interact with the T lymphocytes. The T lymphocytes trigger the B lymphocytes to produce the antibodies. These antibodies attack the antigen. The T lymphocyte also remember the particular antigen, and for the future attack also they are prepared and they remember it. They are known as memory T cells. If you study immunology in details, you will get to know about them.
Is a drainage system that removes excess fluid from body tissues and returns it to the bloodstream. It's actually a subsystem of both the circulatory and immune system. The major purpose of the circulatory system is to bring oxygen and nutrients to body tissues and remove wastes. This exchange happens in the smallest blood vessels called the capillaries. Blood plasma containing nutrients moves out of capillaries at the arterial end of capillary beds, while tissue fluid containing wastes reabsorbs back in at the venous end. However, not all of the fluid is drawn back to the bloodstream at this point. About 15% of it is left in the tissues and would cause swelling if accumulated. This is where the lymphatic system comes into play. It picks up the excess fluid and returns it to the circulatory system. Unlike the blood circulatory system, which is a closed loop, the lymphatic system is a one-direction, open-ended network of vessels. Lymphatic vessels begin as lymphatic capillaries made of overlapping endothelial cells. The overlapping flaps function as a one-way valve. When fluid accumulates in the tissue, interstitial pressure increases, pushing the flaps inward, opening the gaps between cells, allowing fluid to flow in. As pressure inside the capillary increases, the endothelial cells are pressed outward, closing the gaps, thus preventing backflow. Unlike blood capillaries, the gaps in lymphatic capillaries are so large that they allow bacteria, immune cells such as macrophages, and other large particles to enter. This makes the lymphatic system a useful way for large particles to reach the bloodstream. It is used, for example, for dietary fat absorption in the intestine. Once inside lymphatic vessels, the recovered fluid is called lymph. Lymph flow is enabled by the same forces that facilitate blood flow in the veins. It goes from lymphatic capillaries to larger and larger lymphatic vessels and eventually drains into the bloodstream via the subclavian veins. On the way, it passes through a number of lymph nodes, which serve as filters, cleansing the fluid before it reaches the bloodstream. Lymph nodes are small bean-shaped structures scattered throughout the lymphatic network. They are most prominent in the areas where the vessels converge. Lymph nodes contain macrophages and dendritic cells that directly swallow up any pathogens, such as bacteria or viruses that may have been taken up from an infected tissue. They also contain lymphocytes, T cells and B cells, which are involved in adaptive immune response, a process that produces activated lymphocytes and antibodies specific to the invading pathogen. These are then carried by the lymph to the bloodstream to be distributed wherever they are needed. The lymphatic system also includes lymphoid organs. Primary lymphoid organs, the thymus and bone marrow, are the sites of lymphocyte production, maturation, and selection. Selection is the process in which lymphocytes learn to distinguish between self and non-self, so they can recognize and destroy pathogens without attacking the body's own cells. Mature lymphocytes then leave the primary for the secondary lymphoid organs, the lymph nodes, spleen, and lymphoid nodules, where they encounter pathogens and become activated.